Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, March the 31st, 2015. Israel's 20th Knesset was sworn in today. The 120 members include 39 new lawmakers and a record 28 women. Following the official ceremony where the MKs pledged allegiance to the Knesset, they attended the first official session of Parliament. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, who opened the swearing-in ceremony, likened the 120 MKs to the four sons mentioned in the Passover Haggadah. Rivlin said there are four sons: secular, religious, ultra-Orthodox, and Arab, and they are all smart. They all know to ask questions. Rivlin also reminded the MKs of their mission. He said, "Do not for even a second forget who sent you here. The public's trust," he said, "should always be your paramount concern." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke at the ceremonial opening as well, where he said he would form a government that will represent all Israelis and that it was time to heal. Netanyahu said, "Our first mission is to mend the rifts." Netanyahu also warned over the reported emerging deal between Iran and world powers in Lausanne, Switzerland. The Prime Minister said that under the terms of the reported deal, Iran's breakout time to a nuclear weapon may be, quote, a year or less, and said that while he appreciates the friendship and support of the U.S., Iran is an existential threat to the Jewish state, and it was his duty to speak up. Jewish organizations are expressing their dismay at the Virginia State Bar after the group canceled a seminar in Jerusalem for later this year. This past Friday night, President of the Virginia State Bar, Kevin Martingale, sent out a letter to members saying that the mid-year legal seminar trip to Jerusalem scheduled for this November would be changed to another venue due to, quote, unacceptable discriminatory policies and practices pertaining to border security in Israel. Yesterday, the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington's Director Ron Halber called the decision reprehensible and said that Friday's move was based on politics, not logic, saying it, quote, provides comfort and a rallying cry for supporters of BDS, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement. The American Jewish Committee called on the bar to reconsider, saying there were other options that the bar could have taken, and we strongly urge them to do so. B'nai B'rith International called the bar's decision highly regrettable, noting that, quote, Israel's entry and exit procedures, while certainly strict, are entirely necessary in light of the country's onerous security predicament. The date of the death of Polish Jewish humanitarian and hero Janusz Korchek has been changed. On Friday, a court in Lublin, Poland, changed the date to August the 7th of 1942 and not May the 9th of 1946 in order to reflect that Korchek was killed in the Treblinka concentration camp. The change was made at the request of the Modern Poland Foundation. Korchek, who was a doctor, teacher, and writer, ran an orphanage for Jewish children in the Warsaw Ghetto. And though he was given a chance to save himself, he chose to go with the almost 200 children to Treblinka, where they were all killed upon arrival on August the 7th. Post-war Polish courts had given the dates of those who died during the war but whose deaths were not officially documented as 1 year after the end of the war. Lublin Court Judge Katarzyna Makarich said, however, that leaving Korchek's death as May 1946 distorts the historic reality. Meanwhile, new research conducted by the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam shows that she may have died earlier than believed. While the exact date of Anne Frank's death from typhus in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp is unknown, it is thought to be sometime in March of 1945. But new research, which includes information from the Red Cross archives, the Bergen-Belsen Memorial, an international tracing service, and eyewitness testimonies, has now concluded that Anne and her sister Margot died in February of 1945. The findings were published today on the 70th anniversary of the official date that had been set by Dutch authorities after the war of the sisters' death. U.S. President Barack Obama signed a proclamation yesterday declaring today, March the 31st, Education and Sharing Day USA. The date corresponds to the 11th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, the birthday of the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, to honor his tireless efforts in education for Jews and non-Jews alike. The president wrote in the proclamation, "Because of leaders like the Rebbe, we have made great strides toward achieving quality education for all." But his legacy is not only a story of progress, it is also a call to remember his words and take up this unfinished task. Obama emphasized that equal education for girls in particular across the globe was vital. The Education and Sharing Day was inaugurated in 1978, initially called a National Day of Reflection. And turning now to our programming for tonight, Tuesday, March the 31st, Director of Leadership for the Shalom Hartman Institute of North America, Ilana Stein-Hain, looks at what we learned from Passover, using biblical texts and rabbinic commentary on the roles of Miriam and Moses in the Exodus story. Followed at 8:30 by International Director of Interreligious Affairs for the American Jewish Committee, Rabbi David Rosen's keynote address at the 29th Annual Bergen County Interfaith Brotherhood Sisterhood Breakfast, talking about his global work on interfaith relations. And then at 9, Mark Golub sits down with Amir Shlomian on L'chaim to talk about his unique Jewish and Arab school in Israel, Ein Bustan. That's tonight on JBS and jbstv.org. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, March the 31st, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.